What's up, Honor? So if you've seen my short form videos before, specifically the ones where I start them off with saying, did you know this? And I talk about some random useless fact about Spirit Halloween, Animatronic, just Spirit Halloween stores in general. And you'll know that I'm a big Spirit Halloween nerd. I love just learning random stuff and then sharing it with you. And that's why for today, I want to take a lot of this just useless information about Spirit Halloween animatronics I've learned over the past so many months and sort of put it all into one video to share with you. So of course, this video will help you if you're also a Spirit Halloween nerd like myself and want to know more, or even if someone ever asks you to a Spirit Halloween trivia night, then you'll know that you are set because you know everything there is to know, the littlest details about random animatronics. So anyways, it should be a fun video and I hope you do enjoy. So of course, with that said, let's get into talk about Spirit Halloween facts. And to kick off the video, let's talk about one of the newest things I learned, which is about the Spirit Halloween lawn scares, which if you'd ever heard of them, it's sort of their just section they do just every year with all the different just other Halloween decorations. But back in around the 2013 and 2015 era, they actually used to do a little themed section to it, which was really cool. But the fun fact here is that, did you know that back for 2013, when they first started this section, the original version that was supposed to be in stores was supposed to be a full ISE for the lawn scare section? Of course, I do have a few photos to share with you here, but pretty much looking at it, the ISE, it would have been this little greenhouse type of thing, which looks pretty creepy. Of course, it would have had a spot for animatronics along the front, and the inside it would have also had space for animatronics or different props to be set up. Of course, with this, it would have just been a nice little area, just sort of view different like props, just random stuff they have that you could decorate your own yard with. And yeah, it's really sad that we never actually got this ISE released, since it would have been really cool to see, since, you know, we always get like the really big ISEs in the middle of the store, but we never get too much off to the side. So this would have been a really cool thing to see. Of course, instead that year, we did get just this simpler form of the ISE, which is sort of like this garden shed type vibe, I will call it. Of course, not as good as the greenhouse we could have got, but still decent to see. But anyways, just a random thing, which, yeah, would have been so cool if the original version of this was what we saw in stores for 2013. And next up, the next fact I have here for you is about the Miss Fortune Teller, which for this animatronic, did you know that it is one of the most difficult Spirit Halloween setups out of any animatronic? Of course, for this prop right here, you know, it looks like a fairly simple one. We've seen these box type animatronics like this before, like I have the Skill Crane, pretty simple setup, but the thing with this is it's a very complicated setup, because for this window and box, you'll realize that there are 88 screws included with this, which is just insane. I've set up animatronics which only need like 4 to 6 screws before, and those are already challenging, so I couldn't imagine having to screw in 88 screws to build this. Pretty much look at the instructions, you can see at the frame, every little piece in this, you have to use screws. It's not like the typical stuff with the little snap blocks, you just screw everything in, so very, very annoying with this. So anyways, one of the hardest setups out there for an animatronic, and yeah, if you have this and have to set up each Halloween, I feel for you, that must suck. And next up here, this next little trivia fact isn't necessarily relating directly to a Spirit Halloween animatronic, but one that could have been sold at Spirit Halloween. Because of course, did you know that the Party City trash can raccoon guy that was released back in around 2021, do you know that he was originally supposed to be a Spirit Halloween animatronic? Now, I don't believe it was ever actually like made a prototype for Spirit Halloween, but it was originally a concept from Spirit Halloween that they wanted to turn into an animatronic, or at least it was a concept that was presented to them. But due to unknown reasons, they never went forward with this, so they never went through the whole phases of making a prototype, then changing some designs about, and then going through that whole process to actually release it. They ended up just scrapping the design, and then later it was sold to Party City for them to be able to sell. So honestly, very crazy. It would have been cool to see this sold at Spirit Halloween, since it never did come to Canada. If it was at Spirit Halloween, it probably would have came here and would have been what I would consider buying, because it's cool animatronic, but still cool at least Party City was able to pick this up, because if not, it would have just been another lost Spirit Halloween prototype. And carrying on with that same sort of idea, I have another fun fact about an animatronic that would have been sold at Spirit Halloween, of course relating to the Burlap Jumpin' Spider, which is that, did you know that the Burlap Jumpin' Spider that was released this year at Mayor was originally supposed to be a Spirit Halloween Jumpin' Spider design? It was supposed to be released in around 2024, of course, the year that we got the Gray Jumpin' Spider. It would have been in place of that. But Spirit Halloween, they just weren't big fans of the burlap design for some reason, which I don't get. I think it's a cool design. It's a bit of a weird one, but I don't think there's anything bad with it. So of course, Spirit went the Gray Jumpin' Spider to release instead as their 5th or 6th Jumpin' Spider. They've sold so many over the years. But fortunately, this animatronic, it was still released at Mayor, which was really cool. Unfortunately, it's a smaller grocery chain, which I think is only in the northeastern, maybe also the southeastern US. So Not one which too many people actually got to see, but still cool, at least it was released somewhere. Carrying on, I've got a fun fact for you about an animatronic from 2025, so just last year, of course, being about Head Case Harry, which for this animatronic, did you know that originally its name was supposed to be very similar to another animatronic we did get released that year? Of course, for Head Case Harry right here, he had a working name, which sometimes the working name is close to the actual release name, sometimes not. It's just the idea name they sort of had for the prop, but originally for Head Case Harry, his working name was Two-Faced Bobby, which you remember for 2025, we also got released Two-Faced Teddy. So this guy potentially could have been alongside Two-Faced Teddy, so there could have been two Two-Faced animatronics. Now it is very unlikely that this guy would have released with that name, and even Two-Faced Teddy, if there was a Two-Faced Bobby, his name would have likely been something different, but just kind of funny to see that there's Two-Faced animatronics this year, and honestly, I think the Two-Faced name really fits Head Case Harry here way better. All right, but next up here, we have a fun fact, which I have just learned today, which this one right here is about the zombie barrel back from 2010, which did you know that for this animatronic, he was originally supposed to be a clown, which is kind of interesting because a lot of animatronics we have nowadays, you know, they're clowns that took the spot of what could have been a non-clown animatronic, but back then, they were making clowns that ended up becoming other animatronics, which is kind of funny, but this guy right here, look at original concept art for the Cirque du Spirit ISE, which was from that year, which this guy of course appeared in. You can see that the original concept for him was for him to be a clown popping out of a barrel instead of a zombie, which honestly, I really do prefer that they made him a zombie because I prefer zombies over clowns. I'm still a big clown lover. I've got a bunch of clown animatronics. I do a carnival each year. I'm the biggest clown guy around in my town, but yeah, still a big fan of zombies, and honestly, really cool we got this guy released because he was a sick animatronic and maybe even also kind of inspired Moonshine Barrel Zombie. So if this guy was released, then maybe we would have even gotten that guy, who knows. And carrying on, we have a fun fact, which I learned about an animatronic that I have, which I never knew this, but it's of course about Electrified Corpse, which did you know that for this animatronic, they changed one thing about him when they released the new version for 2025. And that one thing they changed kind of sucks. Of course, what they did do is the original model on his one arm where the hand is chopped off, he had this little bloody stump on there, which I think was a really cool detail because instead of it just being like, oh, he's missing a hand, you can't even see where it came off from. This one you can actually see like, oh yeah, that's where it's chopped off, and really adds more gory, creepy effect to the character. Unfortunately, for the new version, they decided to not do that entirely, so the arm, there's nothing there at the end, so it can pose weirdly. Sometimes you can like see the pool noodle arm he has sticking through there, or stuff like that, which is really annoying. I wish I would have kept that bloody stump on there, because honestly, it looked really cool. Like, I think it was way better with that. That's the one major thing they changed for the new version for 2025. So honestly, sad that they changed it. It would have been cool if they kept it, but at least the animatronic is still cool overall, and I'm really happy they did bring him back because he's one that I bought, and I'm really happy I got him. And carrying on, next up here is another fun fact about an earlier version of animatronic, which of course, did you know that the Hazmat Zombie from 2017 was originally supposed to be a completely different zombie entirely? Of course, the original version was known as the Zombie Fireman, or at least that was the working name, but for this animatronic, it was one that was designed kind of to go along with the sort of cabin house ISE they were going to be doing for that year, which eventually that ISE did get turned into the Area 31 ISE that we did see released. So this animatronic, which was originally supposed to be one that would sort of fit into that theme with it being the Zombie Fireman type one, ended up being changed to more so fit in with the Area 31 theme, of course, making it a Hazmat Zombie to kind of go with that alien type vibe. Which honestly, I still do really love the Hazmat Zombie we did get released. I would love to see that character back at some point because he may honestly be the best static of all time for Spirit Halloween. I love him. So overall, the Zombie Fireman, a cool prop. Really wish he was released because he was a really cool one, but at least the Hazmat Zombie, which did go in place of this guy, was still a really cool character and one of the best from 2017. And as we move on to the next one, we are almost reaching the end of the video, which if you haven't yet, please make sure to subscribe and definitely comment down below which of these facts I told you so far are your favorite, or even share some more below. I'd love to hear them. But anyways, get into one of our last fun facts I have for you. It's of course about untimely death, which did you know that untimely death was actually supposed to be returning for 2023? Of course, animatronic, it had prototypes of it that were in Spirit Halloween stores in 2023, likely due to them trying to figure out a way to fit this animatronic into the theme, most likely. Because typically, Spirit Halloween with their prototypes, it depends, but typically when they are actually sent to their flagship store, it's usually when it's in the like more so testing phase to test how it is in the ISE. So this likely was close to being put into stores, I think. Now, of course, this prototype we see was probably not the final version. There's probably other stuff that they would change about it, but for what it is, it's still very interesting to see that this could have been released for 2023, which honestly would have been a perfect year for it because it would have fit way better in the Spirit Halloween ISE for that year. Like other animatronics, like some of the clowns we got that year, this would have been a way better fit. And for it being their 40th year anniversary in 2023, it would have been cooler to see some like more crazier animatronics return. So this one would have been an insane one to see back in stores. Unfortunately, Untimely Death did not return and likely was just scrapped, but hopefully this one will return at some point because honestly, it's a creepy animatronic and I would love to see it back. And now moving on to the last Spirit Halloween useless fact I have for you, of course, about Giant Death Ray, which is that did you know that Spirit Halloween almost sold a 12-foot animatronic? Of course, Giant Death Ray right here, originally he wasn't supposed to be 10 feet, he was actually supposed to be 12 feet, of course, as you can see with prototypes that were in the Spirit Halloween store back in around 2023, maybe even 2022. Or of course, also in the SVI offices, they did have prototype guy this to set up, which yeah, he was supposed to be 12 feet originally. It's supposed to be Spirit's way of competing with these other companies which have been making these big 12-foot animatronics. The issue though was with this is that a 12-foot animatronic for Spirit doesn't make as much sense. Like Home Depot or Lowe's, these big lumber stores, they're used to shipping around these big products. They have the warehouse space for it, so it makes sense for them to sell it. But a place like Spirit Halloween, you know, where all their stuff gets shipped in these shipping containers, you know, they don't have these big ways of transporting just pallets of these big 12-foot animatronics. Also, lots of their stores, you know, since they set up in random spots, they don't have roofs that are a certain amount high for like every store. It means that likely a lot of stores would not be able to set this up, so we'd likely have to make an in-box animatronic for that year. So that's why they lowered it to 10 feet. Just take off the extra 2 feet. Really makes it so it's a much smaller box, and a lot of more stores are able to accompany 10-foot high roofs much better than ones that are 12 foot or higher. So honestly, sad we never got to see a 12-foot animatronic for Spirit Halloween. I think it would have been really cool, but still, for this guy, 10 feet, I think is a really good height for him. Anyways, with that said, that's gonna finish it for today's video. Hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, I will see you all in the next video coming out sometime this week. Goodbye.